Hello, and welcome back to Awakening to Your Story TV, the place to learn, get inspired, and be supported with heart centered solutions for your everyday life. Today, we are going to be talking about stress because we all have it. It is part of our everyday lives, right? Our bodies were actually designed to utilize stress. We have a biological stress response. And this biological stress response can be really helpful when you have to get a task done, when you are worried about making sure something happens. This biological response that your body has actually helps you get those things accomplished, and it's very, very useful. However, our biological stress response was not designed to be a consistent state of being. And because of the way we live our lives now, so often we are bombarded with stressors, right? They come from people, places, things, right? All of our outside world can become a stressor, and it can actually start to build momentum where things that might not have felt like a stressor before all of a sudden do feel like a stressor, right? So, what I want you to really realize is that your biological stress response is powerful, and it's designed for a sprint, not a marathon. And so you have to come up with ways of managing your stress. Otherwise, your stress is going to start to manage you. So, we're going to look at it from a heart centered way today. We're going to kind of go through strategies. One is a response to stress, right? So, if you have a stressor coming into your life, I'm going to give you some tools to actually engage with that stressor in the moment. And then I also want to give you some long term strategies so that you can start to build up resistance against that everyday stress that may bombard you. So, the first one we're going to look at is the response strategy. And this is one of my very favorite tools. I want you to take a time into your heart, right? Now, we've all heard of timeouts. It's where you remove someone from a negative stimulus so they can think about what they've done. And in the same way, I want you to remove yourself from that negative stimulus, that stress response. But I don't want it to have a negative connotation to it. So it's going to be a time into your heart. This is where you're going to start to slow down that neural path of stress, right? That biological stressor. We're going to quiet down the mind, right? Because when stress comes in, what happens is your prefrontal cortex is kind of shut down and your amygdala takes over, and it wants to flood your whole system with hormones and fight or flight or freeze kind of energy through your system. And so if you can slow down that neurological system, take a breath and get into your heart, then all of a sudden the stress is a little bit more manageable, right? So, a time into your heart is where you take 4 rounds of square breathing. It takes about a minute and a half. So, it's not like it's some monumental thing you have to do, but it really changes the course of the moment, right? So, you take 4 rounds of square breathing. The first one, I want you to place your hand on top of your head. The second one, I want you to hold onto your throat. The third, it's top of the head, forehead, throat, heart. Just move down your center, right down to your heart. So you inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You hold for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You exhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you hold for 4. And then you move to the next position. And when you do this, you'll really start to feel that kind of neurological stimulus slow down and quiet your mind. And you'll get to a place where you feel a little less reactive, right? Which is a game changer. So when you do this, after you do it, take a deep breath, shake out your system, and then if you need to, do it again, right? It's breathing, it's your breath. It brings you back to your center, back to your heart. And it's a really valuable place to be. Now, the next thing I want you to do as a response to that stress is become a witness and observer. Now, when you actively take the position of looking at the stress as something separate from you, right? It gives you enough perspective not to be controlled by the stress. Because what your amygdala wants you to do is it wants you to try to control that environment. It wants you to fight it. It wants you to freeze or it wants you to flee, right? When you are locked into that relationship with the stressor, whether it's your friend, whether it's a test, whether it's your children, whether it's your spouse, your car not working, whatever the stressor may be, right? If you are locked into a relationship where you're tangled up in it, then there's no room for you to get back into your prefrontal cortex where there are solutions, right? When you're in that fight, flight, or freeze, there's no solutions there. There's no higher level thinking there. And so when you become a witness and you separate yourself and you see the separation between you and what is causing you the stress, then that room actually helps your brain go into a higher level thinking place where you can start scanning for solutions to the stressor, right? Rather than just being stuck in the dialogue of what the stressor is bringing into your life. Okay. Now, the next one is real simple, but it's really powerful. It's make a choice, right? So you've slowed down your neurological system, you've separated yourself from the stressor itself so you can see that you actually are different. It doesn't have power over you. The next thing I want you to do is understand that you have a choice to make. You have two paths of thinking, right? We talk about this a lot in the jellyfish beach, which I will link in the description below, or if you're on a computer, you'll see it up in the corner. The jellyfish beach is where you see, it's an emotional tool where you can see you always have two paths of thinking. You always have a path of thought that is part of your prefrontal cortex, higher level thinking. It's attached to the essential truth. It's attached to what's possible. It's attached to all the things that feel good. You also always have the option of thinking through that amygdala, right? Thinking through your limiting beliefs, thinking through what is rather than what's possible. And it keeps you linked to the suffering. So actively choosing which path you want to go down is actually a gift of power back to you, right? Because it feels like those stressors take some of your power away from you. But if you actively make a choice, no, I see that stressor, right? If it's your kid or your spouse or your best friend, whatever it is, I see that stressor outside of myself and I have a choice. Who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? And what do I want to think? I don't have to think according to the stressor. I can think according to how I want to think. I want to scan for solutions, I'll scan for solutions. If I want to scan for the limitation, I can scan for the limitation. It's not going to feel very good, but I can do that. I can circle that loop of all the things that are wrong, but I have the choice. I always have the choice to think of what's possible, right? So those are the three things that you can do right in the moment of having some sort of stressor come into your life, acute stress situation happening, right? Now I want to talk about long-term strategies because the more you have a sense of possibility built into your system to manage stress, the less likely the stress is going to hibernate within you, right? So, the first thing that I want to talk about in this managing stress long term is creating a positive bias. Now, I did a video about creating a positive bias, which I will link below or up in the corner up here if you're on your laptop. Positive bias is where you scan for what is positive. You're constantly scanning your system, your environment for what is right and good, the things that are positive in your life, right? Now, Studies showed a long time ago that you were either born pessimist or optimist, but studies now have shown that that's actually not true. Your brain can be trained to be optimistic. You have the power to constantly choose what you're scanning for. This neuroplasticity that we have that allows us to change the patterns of our brain is huge. You have the power to scan for what's right and good and positive in your life. And I promise you, if you are doing this, even for a short period of your day every day, you're going to start to feel better, and stress will be less likely to take up home inside your brain, right? Now, one of the easiest ways to do this, create this positive bias, is by having a gratitude practice. And this is where you are, again, scanning throughout your day for what's good, using your nouns and senses, right? So, person, place, thing, or idea. What are the people, places, things, ideas that you had today that were good? And then your senses. What did you see? What did you smell? What did you taste? What did you touch? Just scan through your day, right? And then it's great if you can write them down, or if you can have a person or a friend that you can share them with. Maybe that's something that you do at dinner every night. You sit down and you talk about what you're grateful for. I have a beautiful gratitude practice that I have with two of my friends, and we do audio recordings to each other every day. And sometimes we even send photographs of the things that we love, right? It keeps you circulating in your mind what is right and what is good. And that is a game changer when it comes to managing your stress. Okay, now the other things that we're going to talk about are, they seem very simple, but if you don't tend to them, then they kind of go off the rails, right? And all of this is on the blog. So you can head over to the link in the description at Awakening to Your Story and read through all of these, right? Print them out if you need to. Now, sleep is the next one we're going to talk about. I know. Everybody talks about sleep. But do we often really think about when we're going to bed and what it is our brain is doing when we're asleep? Your brain is actually working really hard when you sleep, and it's doing a job that it can't do when you're awake. So if you're not getting enough sleep, then your body is not getting what it needs to actually manage that stress better, right? So your body actually flushes out toxins, your brain flushes out toxins, your brain categorizes all the things that you process throughout your day. It actually helps you have a better neurological response. Your job is to allow your body to fully shut down. At night, I've started recently when I go to sleep, thanking my brain, thanking my heart, and saying, okay, go do your job. I'm going to let you do your job. And I go to bed a little bit earlier than I used to, right? And you know what? I wake up feeling way more refreshed. Just that kind of cognitive, like, okay, you do your job, allows me to shut everything out from the world and go into, I think, a deeper place of sleep. Now, I'm a scientist, but this is what I've been doing, and it has made a huge difference. So whether or not you actively step in and say, okay, body, I am ready for this sleep, do your job, you're amazing, or you just give yourself enough hours of sleep in the night, right? You're going to be gifting yourself a long term strategy for managing stress. Now, physical activity is the next one. And I know not all of us, some of us go to the extreme with physical activity, and some of us don't do anything with physical activity, right? Think of your body as a house. It houses your brain and your heart and your being. And if it's all closed up, if all the windows are drawn and it's all closed up and it's stagnant and there's no air moving through it, and it's kind of a depressing place to be. And stress is going to completely take over that atmosphere. So, what you want to do is you want to open up the windows and you want to open up the doors and you want to let that air circulate through. And this means going out and walking or turning on music. If you don't have a lot of mobility, it doesn't matter. You can turn on a song and move in your chair, right? Get your body moving somehow. Do a yoga pose, go for a walk, go for a swim, take a little bit of extra time in the shower and do some extra stretching. Move your body with joy, right? Allow your body, the thing that houses you, the thing that holds on to the stress, because you can feel that stress in your body. Allow it space to move. Gift it the opportunity to create a sense of freedom, right? So move your body with joy. That is a great long-term strategy for dealing with stress. The next one is getting out in nature. Now, nature is actually a really powerful place to have that kind of positive hormone level in your brain tickled, right? You get out there, you feel the breeze, you put your feet in the sand or the grass, and you have the sun kiss your shoulders. You can see all of nature. It actually gives you a feedback in your brain that helps lower stress. Now, if you can be out in nature in a place where you feel really small, like in the mountains or in the desert or by the ocean, it actually helps you gain perspective, which also lowers your stress. You feel like you're all those stressors, all those problems, they seem to kind of, even for just a moment, kind of disappear into the landscape. So give yourself a little bit of time outside in nature. And again, if mobility is an issue, you can't get outside, create a window box where there's flowers. Watch the birds. Put a hummingbird feeder outside your window. Watch the birds come. Something. Witness nature. Witness something bigger than yourself in a day. And that's another great long-term strategy for managing stress. Okay. Now, you've got your short-term and your long-term things to manage stress. I want you to go out and practice, practice, practice. If you are having issues, write it in the comments. I am here to love on you and support you and remind you that you are not alone on this journey, and that if there's a particular stressor that is weighing down on you, you can have some perspective. There are people, whether that's your inner circle or me or stranger, you have the ability to create perspective for yourself and take that power back and live the life that you really want. One that's more peaceful, right? One that's more harmonious within yourself. Okay, practice, practice, practice. And until next time, know that I am holding a place of love for you, where your path through stress to the peace, well, it's undeniable.